So, can you tell I wrote this before the whole Little Mermaid cast thing was a thing? No? Well, you will soon. I'll be honest here, I got a semi-job and that caused me to take a break for a while, along with being sick for 2 weeks, and I was just a mess. But I'm here now. Let's go. Last time we talked about how words and basic human terms have been given to all straight people since the terms were invented, and that they were taken away as part of a loophole to outlaw polygamy. Now, that last part I just remembered, so it's not in the last video, but seriously, Clinton, what was the phrasing on that? I find it fascinating that gay rights was pushed back by accident when Bill was trying to get people off his ass for whatever scandal or war was going on at the time, so he made a bill to spite polygamists, not gay people. And yet the country treated it as if it was based on the writing rather than the intent. I'll be honest here, that's a little funny, and I'm in no way surprised by it. Why did I go on a small tangent about the Clintons in the 90s about a bill that has since been nullified in 2015? I have no idea. Anyway, this go around, we're going to talk about how I think the best movie to try to have a remake made about it, and why changing the gender of one of the main characters would be a good milestone for both the company and gay representation in general. And funny enough, it's not Beauty and the Beast or even Aladdin. To me, it makes the most sense to do this with The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid is one of those films I've seen a lot in my life. Not because I wanted to watch it, but because my sister or mom wanted to, and I love them. As a kid, I didn't really like it because of how Ariel acts, and well, because my sister liked it. What can I say? I was an asshole 6-year-old. Nowadays, I like it more for what it did for the company, and it kicking off at least 2 other better movies. Don't at me, I don't want to hear it. The movie itself has pacing issues to me. You can tell this was the end of the Cold War, and a lot of the animation was done by different studios, because of how it goes from looking like a masterpiece to bog standard for the time, both in animation and its structure. If you count it out, each scene is about 3 minutes long, and the only 3 that string together in any coherent way are when Triton destroys Ariel's grotto, her sobbing in the same place, them going to Ursula's cave, the Poor Unfortunate Souls musical number, and her getting to reunite with Eric. That's about 2 things a scene, and they all happen one right after the other. That's why it all flows the way it does. The rest of the film jumps around a lot and takes advantage of the whole 3-day ticking clock thing. For instance, take a look at the opening few scenes of Beauty and the Beast. The opening number is followed directly by Gaston talking to Belle, then her talking to Maurice, and then we skip a little later to that night to show how he got taken in by the Beast. Then we skip to the next evening when Philippe comes back to get Belle. It all flows kind of naturally and takes advantage of the time skips, and it all works to the film's benefit. The Little Mermaid, aside from the 3 I just mentioned, doesn't really flow all that well outside of the date montage, with it being a montage and all gets a pass, and, well, the climax. That sounds like a lot, but when you look at a 90-minute movie and how maybe 20 of it strings together coherently, then we start to have problems. That's not to say The Little Mermaid is bad, but when it comes to it standing up to the movies that came directly after it, it falls really flat. And I think a live-action remake would be a fairly smart idea for this movie on the whole. For instance, with how these remakes often add more stuff to the movie to pad out the runtime and to make minor characters seem more interesting. Looking at you, 2017 Beauty and the Beast. Why not add more scenes to the beginning of the movie to flesh out Ariel's dynamic with her family? Maybe have Triton and the other 6 sisters be a well-fish-oiled machine, and Ariel is just the wrench that fucks up the shit in the cogs of the machine. Or maybe the rehearsal for the concert goes well, but Ariel's heart's not in it, and that could cause a problem. Or even that fucking fork you'll have turned into a meme could be flung into one of the other sisters' hair or something. There are ways to flesh this out and make us care about them missing their sister when she's gone or gets her new legs. Just something. There are 7 characters that you can work with. Hell, the 3rd Little Mermaid did this well with the sisters being able to be characters. Sure, there were 6 of them and it would be a struggle to make that many characters stand out, but it's not impossible. You could even throw in some different body types. Maybe a plus-sized one. Now, I'm not saying obese, but kinda curvy would be okay. Maybe one likes to race, and because of the ab workout that would cause, she's ripped as fuck. Little things like that could help flesh out these girls and could possibly help in the climax. A lot of small things go a long way to make us care about these new characters. Another cool idea would be if Triton took Ariel at her word and gave them both legs so they could go walk among the surface for a day. At some point he sees someone eating fish and then he overreacts and then drags her back to the sea. There are a lot of ways this could be more interesting. But the odds of any of that happening is pretty dumb, because this isn't Dumbo, it isn't Snow White or The Great Mouse Detective. They aren't going to change the plot around because they can. They're going to do what they did with Beauty and the Beast, adding new dialogue and maybe 2 new songs, and that's about it. Nothing really substantial. I'd like it if they went the Aladdin route and actually changed some stuff around, but I'm not gonna get my hopes up for that. The one thing I think this remake could do that would truly set it apart from the rest while also being the same leap forward that the original was back in 1989 would be if you gender swapped either Ariel or Eric, but not both. Hang on now, before you burn me alive for thinking this, there are a few reasons this has stuck with me for so long. The first is, well, it's the Little Mermaid, and you can't ignore that. Unlike with something like LeFou in B&B 2017, where if you cut out the one dance shot he has with a man at the end, everything else about him is subtext. Blatant subtext, but subtext nonetheless. So changing it to have one of the leads be the same gender as the other would make the whole thing a lot more obvious, and I promise you would rake in all the money. Yes, you lose a lot from bigots, but with the amount of people who see these things 2 or 3 times, and especially if there's an on-screen gay romance, you'd get more from the Rainbow Brigade than you would by pandering to these dickheads. Second, it would make a stamp on representation that Disney has been dipping its toe in for years, but now it can't be ignored since it's one of their biggest IPs, and it makes more sense here than ever before. Both Ariel and Eric have pretty simple gender-flipped names, Aaron and Erica, so changes to the script would be easy. And third, it's so unobtrusive to the story that you have to be a special kind of asshat to find an objection to this. The story does not change one bit if one person's pronouns are different. You want to test this theory? Take your favorite movie or game romance and change one of the characters into the opposite gender. No, I'll do it for you. Let's take Tangled and make Rapunzel a man. How does this in any way change the story? The answer is it doesn't. The goals don't change, the adventure still happens, and the romance blossoms all the same because the core of Rapunzel's character is still there. Hell, you could still have Flynn call him Blondie and it make just as much sense. The same applies to any and all romances that you can think of. Barring any menstruation circumstances like pregnancy, the story would not need to change at all. Hell, a lot of stories that have a woman fighting the man plot could still work with a gay male protagonist all the same. I'm focusing on the male-male aspect of things because it's the realm I'm more familiar with and thus more comfortable in, but this applies to lesbian pairings all the same. If you made Eric a woman, or even Flynn, you really wouldn't have to change a damn thing because they're still the same character they always were. The point I'm trying laboriously to get to is that the person's genitals these characters sleep with means fuck all to the story because the only reason either one of these romances kick off the way they do is due to the fact these men are the first people outside of their sheltered lives the women in question have ever met. Think about it, the only reason Ariel likes Eric at all is because A, he's human, and B, hot. And Rapunzel falls for Eugene because they have an adventure with one another. But it almost would have played the exact same way with anyone who came to that tower, male or female. The only reason Ariel cares about him, the only reason he's in any way noteworthy, is because he was playing a flute and was in earshot. The odd thing is, that's not my biggest problem with Eric as a character. My real big issue with Eric is that he doesn't really have a character. He's like every other prince that came before him. He's boring. Prince Charming at least is redeemed by Cinderella 3, where he's a nice guy who literally jumps out of a window to go get a girl that a couple of mice tell him is real. To go get a girl that a couple of mice tell him is real. I just love this man in this story. Whew, he's so fun. He's like Sora, goofy, fun, silly, willing to do what animals or random people tell him to do with no real fight, and is just casually doing amazing stunts like it's nothing. And it's great. Eric doesn't really get that much fleshing out in either movie he's in. He's the side dressing to the real story about Ariel and her dad, or Ariel and Melody. So, I think a live action remake with him either as a woman, or him as the clearly gay man he already is, would be smart. Because nowadays writers are putting more effort into women and LGBT characters to avoid backlash from those people. And while I think that's a little shady, seeing as writing good characters should be a writer's first and foremost job, it at least makes sense from a business level because of how people react to those kind of boring feeling characters. Again, look at LeFou, an outed on Twitter gay character who never really does anything openly gay until the last possible frame of the film, and everyone hated him for it. Sure, he had some poses. My least favorite has to be the copper tone baby finger on his lip during the Gaston number, coupled with the over-the-top expressions, and if you pay attention, he does flirt with Gaston a lot. But again, you could ignore all of that if you really wanted to. So either having Erica or Aaron made into new characters that is at least something different from the animated counterpart part would be rather refreshing. A quick example, since I'm droning on at this point, to give out is maybe that Eric is a reader and more into travel. He is a sailor and would be able to read a map and thus might be able to actually read a book, since he is a prince and thus has some education. This would also tie into Ariel/Aaron's obsession with books and learning. I mean, there is an entire song devoted to Ariel's obsession with anthropology. A common interest would help develop both characters and their relationship. Admittedly, this does feel a little copy-pasted from Beauty and the Beast, but hey, it's something. Plus, rather than making it a show-off moment like it was in B&B 2017, it could be similar to the 1991 version. She walks into the library, cries at the wealth of knowledge staring her in the face, and he just gifts her with the books, and mayhaps learn to write more than her name, so this plot doesn't have a gaping hole the size of Texas in it. For a succinct version of this trilogy, I guess, here's Lily Orchard. What? I don't stand her that hard. Oh, just listen.
Writing gay relationships is the single easiest thing in the world to do, because we've been writing relationships, marriage, flirting, and dates for as long as we've been writing at all. And gay relationships are just those things, but with one person's gender flipped. You can write a fulfilling, enjoyable gay relationship without having to actually do any work. You just have to be bothered to get off your ass and do it.
The point I've been trying to make this entire video is that gays in movies, especially children's movies, are so simple to do and so non-problematic that it's damn near impossible to make an argument against it. If you've made it to 2019 still hating this idea, we'd all kindly like you to go fuck yourselves, get whatever stick is up your ass out of it, and knock it the fuck off. No one cares about your bullshit, and pretending to care about the safety of children's fragile minds is such a bullshit excuse that even Arthur has tackled it at this point. So please, kindly fuck off and die. My name is Chris, and this is not a comb, you red-brained idiot. It's a dull, three-pronged, tiny sword. Stop getting your information from a seagull, damn it!